Hello, brothers and sisters. Raven here for a very short one, hopefully. This is just a side note, as I've been going through more of the Devil's Dictionary. I came across something that Ozzy should have been a lot more careful about. This is something I could see anybody missing. So I'm not surprised he did this. But boy, does it create an issue. If you remember a little while ago, I did a video where I talked about how almost everybody I talked to from Homestead would say something to the effect of how judge one by their fruit. Talks about how it's by that. And they went to Homestead because they saw such great fruit. And I mentioned how I didn't want to go into it so much because I was sort of nervous and scared. But then when I finally looked at it, it was obvious. Those of you who didn't see it, what I showed was how when Jesus used the metaphor they're talking about and where he said what they quote as the definition, what they ignored what was around it. They ignored the context. Because when Jesus uses that metaphor of the tree and its branches, instead of the vine and its branches, he goes and he is addressing the false teachers of that time in both situations. And in one, he clarifies what the fruit is as their false teachings, which goes against exactly what keeps everybody joining Homestead. They set aside the teachings because they have this special fruit. Well, here's what Ozzy does that's so funny in this. He gives a sort of definition of doctrine. And in the definition, he uses this metaphor of the tree and its branches. He says, the branches of wisdom's tree no longer severed, but integrated in producing life. He says that's what doctrine is. Okay, you can try using that as a definition. But here's what's so funny. He then uses a verse to support this. It's a verse out of Proverbs, and what it says should have set off an alarm. It's Proverbs 11:30, where it says, the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he who wins souls is wise. You realize what that means? Fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he who wins souls is wise. There's two sides to this verse, and it separates what he tries to put together in the definition. But here's what gets me. First, he says, he who wins souls is wise. Ozzy, in his sort of rebuke almost, maybe not quite, but sort of a rebuke of Franklin Graham, you may remember he didn't like the idea of just going out and giving the gospel, just evangelizing. He doesn't want to go out and win souls. Kind of funny he uses this verse. But then in the first part, the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life. The tree and branches, the fruit, the teachings, the doctrine, the correct doctrine, thus the fruit of the righteous, is a tree of life. You have to take it that way for this verse to give the definition of doctrine that Ozzy has given. If you don't want to take it that way, if you want to treat this fruit as what they claim it is, this doesn't promote what he's saying because it wouldn't be defining doctrine. He has just redefined fruit correctly, but it goes against exactly what they use to pull people in. Ozzy has just shattered what pulls people into Homestead heritage. And I really hope some of them start to realize it. So I'm going to have to go through the rest of the definitions of doctrine later, but I really want to point this out because this is sort of a side note because of what it connected to from before. So this is pretty significant. And I hope some of you can use this if somebody uses that on you again. Did you ever talk to somebody at Homestead and they tell you, by the fruit, yeah, I might want to try using this? Don't just go to those other passages. Go to how Ozzy uses it in this way, of how Ozzy defines it this way. Because just going to those other passages, I doubt that's going to be quite as effective. But when their leader, their teacher, teaches the opposite, that might cause more of an issue. So I hope this is helpful. I'll see you guys next time. God bless.